Hello friends, this is Shubham and today we will talk about the histology of epithelium. So what is epithelium? Epithelium is actually made up of the cells which are strongly adhered to each other or which are strongly connected to each other or bind to each other, and these cells rest on the basement membrane. So what is epithelium? If I will present it diagrammatically, so for an example, let's suppose this is a basement membrane. This is the basement membrane over here, and here I am drawing the cells. Further, I will talk about the types of the cells. For example, these are the cells over here. Here I have drawn the cells. Okay, these are the nucleuses of these cells. So this is the basement membrane. This is the basement membrane. Basement membrane. And here I have drawn the cells. So these cells are connected to each other very strongly, and they make sure that any substance does not pass through it. Means any substance does not cross the cell membrane, at least paracellularly. Okay, so these are, however, some substances can pass through it. Some very minute or very small particles can goes through it, but most of them cannot pass through it. So what is epithelium again? Epithelium is made up of the cells which are strongly connected to each other and lies or rest on the basement membrane. So if we talk about the epithelium, epithelium can be membranous or glandular. Epithelium can be membranous or glandular. Now what does it mean that membranous or glandular? If the epithelium is present like this form, like in the straight line, simply, so this is the membrane form, like this is the membranous form. And if we talk about the glandular, if the epithelium is present like this, okay, if they are present like this, so these are forming these kind of structures, the glandular ones, normally present in many of the glands. So this form of epithelium, we say this is glandular, and this form of epithelium is the membranous. Now generally if you will talk about the locations of the epithelium, very generally, where are they present? They can be present in the external surfaces, for example our skin. They can be present as the internal closed cavities, for example our cardiovascular system, our peritoneal cavity, our pericardial cavity, or pleural cavity in the lungs. So these are the locations in the internal closed cavities. Further, epithelium can be present in body tubes too, for example urogenital system or GIT, gastrointestinal system. So here they can be present in the body tubes. Now if you will talk about the functions, what are the functions of the epithelium? There are four very basic functions. First one is the protection, as you can understand from the epithelium that for example in the skin, they don't allow the abrasions or any kind of traumas on the skin. So this is the protection. Further, secretion or absorption, these are also the functions, and some kind of sensations or exchange of some materials or some substances, these are also the functions. So let's talk about functions, and what are the functions of the epithelium. Functions of the epithelium. So function, first one would be first one which should come in your mind, that function of the epithelium, it is protection. Protection, for example, protection from the many kind of bacteria. If the epithelium is not going to prevent us from, with the help of the epithelium, we will be infected with some bacteria, or many kind of bacteria. So protection, secretion of many substances, absorption, some sensory functions, sensation, and exchange of some materials, okay, through the plasma membrane or cell membrane. So these are some functions of the epithelium. Now let's talk about the classification of epithelium, that how can we classify them. So till now I have talked about that they could be membranous or glandular. Membranous, they would be present in this form. Glandular, they will present in this form, present in some glands. The functions of the epithelium. Functions of the epithelium could be the protection, secretion, absorption, some sensations, and exchange of some materials through the cell membrane into the cell or outside the cell. So let's talk about the classification. How can we classify the epithelium? On what basis the epithelium could be classified? Actually, epithelium can be divided on the basis of the shape of the cells. As I told that these are made up of the strongly compacted cells, strongly attached to each other, which lies on the basement membranes. By the way, what is the function of the basement membrane? Basement membrane actually separates these cells from the underlying tissues beneath it. Okay, so this is the function of the basement membrane. So I was talking about the classification. Epithelium can be divided on two bases. First one, on the shape of the cells. What are the shape of the cells? There are many shape of the cells. Like, what could be the shape? So shape of cells and the layers of the cells. Layers of cells. Okay, so they can be divided on the basis of the shape of the cells and the layers of the cells. Now let's talk about the shape of the cells. So what shape could they have? For example, if they are present in this form, for example, this is the basement membrane, okay, the black color, and here I have drawn these cells. So these are some flat, they have some flat surface. These are the nuclei of these cells. Okay, if I will magnify this over here, so what kind of cells are these? Look here, they are like this. They have the surface like this. Okay, so these are somewhat, this is the nucleus, this is somewhat flatter, like this is somewhat flat surface. So these are very thin cells, so these are flat cells, or we can say these are squamous cells. Squamous cells. So this is the first one. On the basis of the shape of the cells, they could be squamous or flat shaped cells. Further, they could be cuboidal. In shape. Now let's look over here. Let's look over the cuboidal ones. They would be present like this, like the squares. They are like these are the nucleuses of the cells, compact to each other very strongly. So these are like squares. If you will magnify this over here, for example, so look over here. So this is the cell. I have magnified over here. So this is the cuboidal cells. Like all the surfaces are equal, all the width and the height, length of the cell, these are equal. So these are the cuboidal cells. Okay. Further, we have third category in the shape of the cells. They could be columnar, means they would be tall. So they are also called as tall cells or columnar cells. They are present as columns. Columnar cells or columnar epithelium. So this I have drawn the basement membrane in both the layers. Here also I am drawing the basement membrane here, and they would be present as like this. Long, they are taller ones. They are the taller cells. So you can recognize these cells, you can recognize these epitheliums in the microscope by their structures. For example, if they are looking more flatter, they will be the squamous one, so squamous epithelium. So if they are looking equal in sizes, the shape of the cells are equal, so they could be the cuboidal. Or they are taller, then they could be the columnar ones. Now, if we will talk about the layers of the cells, okay, if we talk about the layers of the cells, they could be single layer, or they could be single layer, or they could be the multiple layer. In the single layer, which we can call them as simple one, and the multiple layer we call them as stratified. So they could be divided as first single, or we call it as simple one. Second, it could be as multiple layers. Multiple layers can be present, so multiple layers, and we call them as stratified. Stratified. So if there is simple cell, simple epithelium, among these three categories can be included in each of them. Like how? If we talk about the simple one, it could be, if it is simple squamous. So if we will focus over this, then this is the single layer, as you can see over here. We don't have the multiple layers. So this is the single one, this is the simple layer, and at the same time they are having the flat cells. So these are the simple squamous epithelium. So this layer here we can see, this is the simple squamous epithelium. Why it is simple? Because they don't have the multiple layers, they have the only single layer, so it is the simple. And further we have the flatter cells, more flattened cells of the surface, so this is the simple squamous epithelium. Now look over this, we have the cuboidal cells, that's why it's cuboidal. And also this layer also don't have this epithelium also don't have multiple layers, so this is not stratified. Also this is the single layer, so this is the simple cuboidal because they have the same width and length and height of these cells. So this is the simple squamous, this is the simple cuboidal, and this will be the simple columnar, because they have the single layer of the cells, and also they are taller ones, columnar cells. So this is the simple columnar epithelium. Okay, so here we can write that it is the simple squamous, here it's simple cuboidal, and here it's simple columnar epithelium. Now let's talk about the stratified, how these epithelium are going to represent to you. So here we are talking that these are the simple layers. Now, for example, here is the basement membrane. Okay, and there would be the, in the stratified, as far as stratified epitheliums are concerned, they are going to represent with the multiple layers. And which kind of epithelium is it? They will be recognized as the top layer of it. For example, if the top layer is going to represent with the flatter cells, so it would be stratified squamous epithelium. If the top layer will be the cuboidal ones, these are looking like the cuboidal cells, so that would be the stratified, because there are multiple layers. And if you will see from the top of it, so if they are going to represent as the cubes, like cuboids with same width, height and length, so they are going to be stratified cuboidal epithelium. And if there will be the structures like the columnar cells, taller cells, so that would be the stratified columnar. It does not depend that what kind of cells are going to attach to the basement membrane. Whatever cells are represent on the top layer of these epithelium, they are going to represent, and they are going to categorize as according to that category. So for example, this is the basement membrane, and here I have drawn some cells, like this is the flatter cells over here. Okay, here I have drawn the flat cells, or you can say squamous one. Okay, here I have drawn, for example, some tall cells, columnar cells. Okay, and here I have drawn the cuboidal ones. So what epithelium is it? You are saying that simple squamous, that is flat cells are attached to the basement membrane, but you can see this is not the single layer, so we will not call it as simple. Here we can see that these are the multiple layers, but the topmost layer have the cuboidal cells. These are the cuboidal cells I have drawn over here. This is the cuboidal cells. So this layer is gonna be stratified because they have the multiple layers, stratified, and on the top of it they are the cuboidal cells present over here. So this is the stratified cuboidal. This is gonna be the stratified cuboidal epithelium. So irrespective of the cell, that which kind of cells are gonna attach to the basement membrane, or what kind of cells are in middle of it, okay, whatever cells will be on the top of the surface, that would be the category of that epithelium. For example, in this case, forget about the epithelium, forget about the cells which are attached to the basement membrane. Whatever cells are going to represent on the top layer of it, they will be the category, that will be the category of the epithelium. For example, here it was the cuboidal ones, so it will be, because of the multiple layers, it is stratified, and because on the top of it there are cuboidal cells present over here, so that would be the stratified cuboidal epithelium. Further, you can take one more example. For example, here is the basement membrane again. Okay, here I have drawn some columnar cells. Over here. Here I have drawn some cuboidal cells. Okay, and here are some flat cells. So you can understand what kind of epithelium is going to be. So it would be, because they have the multiple layers, it is the stratified, and also the top of it is representing, they have the flatter cells, means squamous, so it is the stratified squamous epithelium. So this is the stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so this is the way you are gonna recognize. You can recognize the layers of the epithelium. You can recognize the category of the epithelium. What category will it gonna be represent, or to what category will it belong? Okay. So this was about the basic structures. Likewise, stratified cuboidal, stratified squamous. Likewise, if there will be the columnar cells present over the top of the layer, then it will be the stratified columnar. But the basic idea is this, that irrespective of what kind of cells is going to attach to the basement membrane, you have to see the top layer of the cell, and according to that, if it is single layer, then it will be simple, and if it is multiple layer, then it will be stratified. Okay. Now one more category we have, rather two more category we have. Actually, this is the pseudo stratified. Now, what kind of cells and why is it called pseudo stratified? So, let's talk about the pseudo stratified. Let me rub some portion over here and help you to understand this, what is pseudo stratified layer and how is it going to represent pseudo stratified. Pseudo stratified epithelium. Now, as the name suggests, that's pseudo. Pseudo means false, and stratified means multiple layers. So these are kind of the false multiple layers. Means they will the epithelium will look like that they have the multiple layers, but actually there won't be the multiple layers. For example, look over here. This is the basement membrane, okay, and here I am drawing some cells. Okay, here I have drawn some cells. For example, these are the columnar tallers, and here they are the cuboidal one. Here I have drawn the squamous. Okay, so if you will look from the top, it seems like that they have the multiple layers, but actually they don't have the multiple layers. This is the simple one. That's why these kind of cells, these kind of epithelium are known as the pseudo stratified, because if you will look over the top, it seems like illusion, like if it will seems like that they have the multiple layers, so it could be stratified, it must be stratified, but no, it is not stratified. That's why it's pseudo means false stratified. This is the illusion. So some cells would be the taller ones, columnar ones, some cells could be the cuboidal, some cells could be the squamous. So but they have the single layers, they're not multiple layers. That's why it is pseudo stratified. Now we have one more layer, one more epithelium rather, that is the transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium also have the cuboidal cells, may have the cuboidal or columnar cells on the top of it. Okay, and transitional epithelium is present only and only in the urinary system. For example, in the renal pelvis and calyces, ureter, urinary bladder, and some part of the urethra. So also, because transitional epithelium is present in the urinary system, transitional epithelium is also called as urothelium, because it is only and only present in the urinary system. So this is the most interesting point of view from the exams. Now let's talk about the locations of all these epitheliums. If you will talk about the simple squamous epithelium is present in the lungs, alveoli, or pericardium around the heart, endocardium, that's why it's also called endothelium. Okay, also could be present in the pleura. If we will talk about the simple cuboidal epithelium, it could be present in the kidneys, proximal convoluted tubules of the kidneys. PCT of the kidneys have the simple cuboidal cells. Also, if you will go into the eye, you must have studied that we have the sclera, like just for the sake of understanding, here we have cornea and here we have the eye, right? So this is the outer layer. We have the sclera, and inside it, when you will study ophthalma, you will study that inside it there is the layer which is choroid. So this is the choroid layer we have. Okay, and choroid layer continues into the ciliary body. okay, and ciliary body over here, okay, and this will continue into the iris, and this is the part of the uveal tract, uvea, which consists of the iris, ciliary body, and the choroid plexus. So I'm not going to into the detail of the eye, but just remember that in the choroid layer we have the simple cuboidal epithelium, also the pigmented layer of the retina. Inside it we have one more layer, that is retina, as you all know, on which the light reflects and our eye makes the vision, makes the image on it. So this is the retina. Retina has the multiple layers, but on the pigmented layer of the retina, simple cuboidal cells are found. Okay. Also, where simple cuboidal cells are found, they could be found in the follicles of the thyroid gland. Okay. So in the PCT, proximal convoluted tubules of the kidneys, in these two portions. In the retinal layer, in the pigmented layer of the retina and the choroid plexus, also the inner surface of the lens. Now where is the lens? From the ciliary body, here are the zonules, okay, some specific ligaments, and here you will see our lens, transparent. Here, of course, it is cornea. Outside to cornea, we have the conjunctiva. I'm not going into detail of the eye, but if you remember from the ophthalma that we have these kind of structures. So as far as simple cuboidal is concerned, simple cuboidal is found in the inner side of the lens, okay, pigmented layer of the retina, also the choroid plexus. Also, if we go in the kidney, proximal convoluted tubules, PCT, okay, which helps in the reabsorption over there of the sodium and some important ions from the urine. Also, they are present in the thyroid follicles of thyroid gland. Now, let's move on to this columnar, simple columnar cells, simple columnar epithelium, and where is going to be represent, where is it located? It could be located in the mucous membrane of the stomach, okay. It could be located in the mucous membrane of the stomach, okay. It can be located in the mucous membrane of the stomach. Also, the intestines, also the large intestine, in the gallbladder, in the gallbladder too. For example, this is the liver, right and left hepatic duct, making the common hepatic duct. Here we have cystic duct, and here we have gallbladder. There is the common bile duct, so here gallbladder. So simple columnar cells would represent the mucous membrane of the stomach, our GIT most commonly, stomach, bowels, small intestine, large intestine, our gallbladder, okay. Also some uterine tubes, also could be present in the trachea. Also, they are present in the ependyma of the spinal cord, okay. What are the ependyma? They are lining the central canal of the spinal cord. So in the ependyma, point to be remember that in the ependyma there is the simple columnar cells, simple columnar epithelium is present over there. Now let's talk about the location of the multiple layers, stratified columnar or cuboidal, stratified squamous. If you talk about the stratified columnar or stratified cuboidal, they are present in the sweating glands, pancreas, some sebaceous glands, salivatory glands, okay, some sweat glands, salivary glands, and pancreas. So stratified columnar or cuboidal are present over there. Pancreas, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, or salivary glands, okay. So these are the locations of the stratified cuboidal or columnar. Now let's talk about the transitional epithelium. I have already talked about it. It is also called the urothelium because it is present in the urinary system, renal pelvis, calyces, ureters, urinary bladder, some part of the urethra, Also they have the transitional epithelium. Let's move on to the stratified squamous, where they could be present. They can present in epididymis. Epididymis is concerned with the pseudo stratified. Epididymis is concerned with the pseudo stratified epithelium. So in the epididymis, okay, present in males, concerns with the storage of the semen. So epididymis, pseudo-stratified epithelium is present over there. Also, we were talking about the stratified squamous, right? So stratified squamous, they could be present in the mouth, oropharynx, esophagus, or laryngopharynx. There could be some location. These are some locations where the stratified squamous is found. Further, stratified squamous can be divided into the keratinized and non-keratinized. Keratinized are present over the skin, you can say, protects us from the abrasions of the skin or any kind of trauma of the skin. Okay, so keratinized are present over the external surface of the skin. Non-keratinized are present in the mouth, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, our esophagus. They are present with the stratified squamous epithelium. About the pseudo-stratified are present in the epididymis. Okay, what else? The ciliated epithelium of the pseudo-stratified, they can be present in the trachea for the moving of the secretions. Now, the ciliated epitheliums are the more important, and the cilia are the more important because in some kind of unfortunate patients, they have the immotile cilia syndrome. So what is it? Immotile cilia syndrome, that they have the problems in the moving, in the mobility of in the motility of the next section I will talk about the motility of cilia, that the epithelium have the stereocilia, microvilli and the cilia. I will talk about the structures and functions of them. But in some cases, some unfortunate patients have genetic defect of the movement of the cilia or the mobility of the cilia. So they would not be able to get rid of the secretions inside the trachea. Okay, because these cilia, this pseudo-stratified epithelium is responsible for the moving of the secretions which are secreted from the trachea. So whatever the secretions are coming from the lungs or whatever the secretions are going through the esophagus or like that, they are not be able to get rid of the, mainly in the trachea, they are not be able to get rid of the secretions. So there could be the bacteria invasion over there. So pseudo-stratified epithelium, ciliated one is present in the trachea. Also the non-ciliated one is present in the auditory tube, in the ears, or auditory tube in the middle ears also. Okay, and also in the male urethra, pseudo-stratified non-ciliated epithelium is present. So with this, I would like to conclude my lecture, this video on the epithelium, histology of epithelium. Epithelium, what I have discussed in this video, that epithelium could be membranous or the glandular. Membranous are represent on the single layer like this, okay, and glandular, they would represent in the glandular form. They are present in some glands. Further, they can be classified on the basis of the shape of the cells and the layers of the cells. Shape of the cells, they could be the flatter ones in the form of the cuboids and in the form of the squares with the same height, width and length. Columnar, the taller ones. Further, I have discussed that they could be the single layers, they could be present in the single layer and they could be present in the multiple layer too. If it will be present in the single layer, it would be simple. It will be present in the multiple layer, that would be stratified. Among the simple one, there could be the categories, 3 categories. Again, in the multiple one, there could be the 3 categories again. If it will be simple squamous, they are going to be represented in the single layer. If they are going to be represented in the multiple layers, we have to look over the top one, whichever recognize the top one, and whatever it be will decide the classification of that particular epithelium. So then we talk about the functions, we talk about the locations of these epitheliums. In the next section, I will talk about some structures and we'll go into the detail of these epithelial cells, that what are the structure present over it on the apical side, on the lateral side, and on the basal side. For example, I have talked some words about the cilia, microvilli and stereocilia. I will go into the detail of these structures. Till then, thank you for watching this video. See you in my next section. Thank you.